Newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman.
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch in the Roo, presented by Skyman Premium Cannabis, inspiring people to be better, do better, feel better, look better, be better athletes, sleep better every day of their lives. And our Wednesday show, presented by our friends at Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar in Front 43 Neighborhood Pub. That's just north of Frandor on East Saginaw and Lansing, just on the edge of East Lansing. Fantastic place, outstanding menu. Great place to catch games. If you want to play hooky today, a day like, when the Tigers are in the afternoon, great place to spend your afternoon. Front 43 in Cask & Company. Jason, how you doing, man?
Speaking of the Tigers, how about last night?
Gambling update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Nick.
Always take that plus 1.5, by the way.
If it's
What
there
a
to be
game.
had. Yeah.
I'll fully admit, I changed the channel when they were down 5-0.
At one point you said I'm going to bed.
Yeah, but that's just a bit. That's hacky, terrible Twitter bit. But I wasn't really going to go to bed. I was just saying, wow, 5-0, let's go to bed.
I'm surprised you took them. I don't think you can bet the Tigers right now reasonably. I mean, like today, they play an early game, so we're not really going to talk about it because the game starts now and most people aren't listening now. But
there goes one of my picks for Harry later. That's right. It starts at 110, doesn't it?
yeah, I mean, I say that the parlay thing, let's save it for when football starts. It's a great idea, you and I picking a parlay every time, and we can have picks. Like, I really want to do that segment where every show we pick a parlay.
Every show.
Or at least Wednesdays. I'd like to get to the point that every show we do it. The problem right now is baseball has all these dumbass afternoon games. And the worst part about afternoon games, Jason, is that if you want, it's very much like the rain out scenario where you see a kid disappointed. You know who doesn't play in afternoon games? The stars of the teams. It's we're going to sit them on getaway day. That's a good day off thing. You don't ever buy tickets for the afternoon game if you want your kid to finally get to see their favorite player, because chances are that's going to be his day off. That's what sucks about baseball, among other things.
Yeah. The 2 o'clock start in the afternoon.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I still like doing the parlays with the baseball because I've been getting addicted to those. But, if you don't want to do it, we can. Believe me, Harry sent me a smorgasbord.
We've got a ton of really good stuff from Harry that we'll get into later today.
This is unbelievable. This is like 3 scroll downs of Harry.
Some great picks.
Just degenerate shit, so we can save them.
The other thing we've got going today, it should be fun. We're going to have Adam Rittenberg from ESPN in about 10 minutes to talk what's going on with conference realignment, conference expansion, what he sees for the Big Ten, and why Oklahoma and Texas left, what's next, all this shit. We're going to get into it with Adam, who covers this quite a bit. And
I still don't understand how this benefits Oklahoma and Texas. I don't know why you would want to join the SEC.
It's financial.
Financial, okay. I was seeing it was because of recruiting, and you can say that you were in the SEC.
No, I don't think it helps any. Well, maybe slightly there.
And they were saying that's why Texas A&M did it, and they're kind of pissed off now that Texas wants to join in now.
Well, right, because they were on their. I think it did help Texas A&M because it separated them from Texas. It elevated them. Texas is already elevated on its own. Oklahoma's a playoff team most years. Competitively, I don't think it helps them. So we'll get into all that. The other thing that's going on right now is the Simone Biles story.
Oh, boy.
And what's amazing is the takes on it.
Oh.
There are some priceless takes. Like, there are a lot of think before you tweet moments in life. But this is one where if your first instinct is to slam an athlete who, whose performance doesn't impact your life one way or another, don't do it.
And you're not thinking, though. I mean, why would she plan this? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's done everything you can do in gymnastics and the Olympic level. Why all of a sudden would she come to the Tokyo Games and decide just to have a mental health day?
Think about this. Think about, the idea of training for an extra year because the games are canceled at her age, and to keep in that sort of shape to do another Olympics and to finally get there in a COVID, not ruined, but altered Olympics, no fans, pain in the ass, all this stuff. You go over there to compete, and you're just going to pull out because
you betrayed the country,
right? Because you're just not feeling great about things, or you're nervous. No. You have to take her at her word. I mean, I think a lot of the takes that are questioning her are laced in misogyny, maybe a little racism, mostly misogyny. People wanting to hate her, wanting to hate a gymnast or a female athlete being weak, and thinking it's that. And I would never accuse a gymnast of being weak. I would also remind people that she is a Larry Nassar victim. Like she comes from an organization, USA Gymnastics, that has not raised their athletes well and treated them well on the way up. So I don't know how that would factor in anything. I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff we don't know. And I mean, will there be a day at some point where an athlete says mental health and really means mental toughness? Because those are two very different things. Yes, at some point that may get conflated, and some athlete may not want to be in a situation because they're whatever, and it's not really as serious. And they yes, at some point. But why would we assume that's this?
But if it's serious to you, that's fine enough with me. Like Naomi Osaka, right. She wanted to drop out of 2 major tournaments, but in turn, she was on the cover of the swimsuit issue. So I can understand people that haven't had mental illness in their lives, maybe not understand, or watch Simone Biles from afar and not really watch the Olympics and go, oh, she quit on her team, when she kind of helped the team because she wasn't mentally there, which is fine by that. What my concern is, Graham, is that younger people are watching this and are using mental illness to get out of certain things just because they don't want to do them. And just, to differentiate is going to be tough going forward. And that's what I think people are having a rough time with.
Well,
and some of the Twitter takes, I just ignore those people. I don't know why anybody gives some of these people credence on Twitter at all.
The counter to that is young people are being raised to understand that great athletes have mental health issues, and if you've got one, that's more serious than whatever game you're playing in. And to get yourself the help there first. So, and I read it. I wish I should have saved this to credit it, but it was a thread on Twitter by somebody who showed their children the Kerry Strug vault, or whatever, that landed on one leg with Caroli there and all that, and Larry Nassar waiting to greet her as she came off the sideline. And in hindsight, his kids were mortified. Like, well, if she's hurt, why is she doing this? And Caroli's yelling at her, and the whole
because your country would turn their back on you.
It doesn't actually hold up that well all these years later. The scene of Kerry Strug.
Even at the time, you're like, holy hell, man! Like, what is her leg gone? Is she gonna have to amputate this thing?
And again, physical toughness. If mentally you're there and you think you can do it, and physical toughness is something. If you want to get through it, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
But the misconception is if you have a mental illness, you're in a deep down in a hole in a basement with dark, shades shut and everything like that. And there's so many variations and forms of it.
And also in a sport that I think this is important to note. And I've seen this pointed out by several gymnasts today. Like in a lot of sports, if you get the yips, if you no longer as a baseball pitcher can throw to first, or you can't hit a jump shot, your team loses, it could affect your career. If you lose your confidence in your ability to do what you're doing while you're in like your fourth twist in the air, you might land on your neck. Like, it's not a sport to not have all of your marbles together at once. And so I'm just baffled by a sport that we care nothing about most of the time. And even now,
every 4 years.
Even now, it will not affect our lives, because the second this ends, it'll be like, wait, training camp's happening? What? Oh,
I have to get my point out, and then I'll move on to football.
Yeah, we don't.
Like, all right.
Come on. Like, why is anybody angry? How is this affecting you negatively? If you had, the only thing I would respect is a bad take for a minute that you delete if you had money on her. That I respect. I respect the gambler. And I respect
gambling on gymnastics.
And I respect you deleted the tweet quickly. If you made a bad tweet based on a money loss and deleted it fast, I will live with that.
That's why I always put gambling related in parentheses.
Yes, because that is
let people know. It's serious.
Because you can bet on anything in these gymnastics. It's
and Harry will show you how.
Olympics
coming up at the end of the hour.
That'll be fun. I was baffled by, I was trying to think of examples. I'm sure there are people who should have put their mental health first, and I'm sure it's more okay now. Like, the question is, 4 years ago, or 5 years ago when the previous Olympics were, or 8 years ago, would have somebody in her shoes done the same thing? And I don't know, but that doesn't mean that it was better then, that somebody didn't put themselves first. And think what she's giving up. Like, again, this is a sport we care about once every 4 years. She will not be around in 3 years of the Olympics. This is the end of her career, pretty much. It's not the end of her marketability entirely. But if you win gold as a gymnast, and look, she wasn't performing that well and whatever, but if you win gold as a gymnast, that is your biggest spot to earn money the rest of your life and to be a star. And so she's giving up a lot more.
She's already the GOAT of gymnastics, like everyone says, right? So she doesn't have anything to prove. And that's what I'm saying. If you just look at it face value and you're just going to be a flamethrower instead of looking at it, like, why would she do that? How would that benefit her checking out and saying it was due to mental health?
And one of the things I ask myself all the time when I write, like, even 3 quick takes, which are quick takes, and sometimes they're not as well thought through as a full column. They're instinctual a little bit. But I do try to think of, what don't I know here? What's the counter to this before I write something? And the counter to what's going on with Simone Biles, if you're offended that she left or you think it's mentally weak, there's so many easy counters because you just don't know shit. You don't know anything. And I was actually impressed and happy that she spoke about it and she didn't just and not that there was anything wrong with not saying anything or just releasing a statement or something, but she actually took the interview and said the mental wasn't there. Like, she just knew.
But is that the way to handle it, though? If someone has that opinion, I mean, you have to say, listen, your opinion from here on out is bullshit. Choose to kind of ignore those people that kind of have those flamethrower takes.
The only valid question to her in that situation would be, when did you start feeling this way? When did you know it? Was there any chance to get an alternate in?
Yeah, but what answer are you going to dispute?
Right.
You know,
right.
Whatever she tells you, you can't dispute it. You can't sit there and go, oh, yeah, sure. It's her telling you.
Yeah.
It's a no-win situation.
It is. All right, we are going to take a really quick break here. We come back, we should have Adam Rittenberg from ESPN. We'll talk some conference realignment and what it might mean for the Big Ten. Couch in the Roof, presented by SkyMint Premium Cannabis and Front 43 and Cask & Company.
Wherever you are on your cannabis journey, let SkyMint Premium Cannabis be your guide, your friend, and your place. Whether you're curious about cannabis or a seasoned connoisseur, SkyMint's knowledgeable staff will help you with a vast selection of products to choose from to fit your needs. SkyMint believes access to the best cannabis helps people do good and feel good, so they grow it right here in Michigan, giving you high-quality, locally grown cannabis at highly accessible prices. Visit skymint.com for special offers and location information throughout Michigan, and use the promo code CouchAndRoof20 for 20% off your first visit. SkyMint Cannabis. You'll love this place. Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com. Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen, Bar, or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with one awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing.
You're listening to Couch in the Roof.
What are you on, a radio or the TV?
SpotlightRadioNetwork.com.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, Couch in the Roof, presented by SkyMint Premium Cannabis, and our Wednesday show, brought to you by Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar, just north of Frandor on East Saginaw and Lansing. Very pleased now to have longtime colleague Adam Rittenberg from ESPN on. And Adam, the first time I ever heard from you, I was so grateful for your call. And I don't know if you remember it. You were at the Daily Herald at the time, and Steve Hawkins, the coach at Western Michigan, was being looked at for the DePaul basketball job. And you called in to see if we could collaborate on trying to break the story. And I had started in Kalamazoo like 3 weeks earlier and had zero sources, so I was more than happy to collaborate with you.
Gosh, that's hilarious. It just shows how bad I was at breaking my own stories back then. But I was certainly glad to get any help that you offered. I remember that I do remember that search. I remember there were some, Steve Hawkins was in it at DePaul, and gosh, I remember I was kind of, I had my car parked right next to their campus trying to see who else I could identify. I was pretty young in my career back then too. But yeah, great to talk with you, and obviously appreciate our friendship over the years.
No, I very much appreciate the time, and hope to see you in some press boxes in person this fall. Obviously more going on than usual around the late July, early August time in college athletics with what's going on with Oklahoma and Texas, and them moving to the SEC and perhaps the conference realignment elsewhere. At least that conversation happening. I'll start here. What do you think, if you're the Big Ten, what discussions are you having right now, and how is there an urgency at all to change?
Well, I think it's important to have big picture discussions at this moment. There's just too much going on in the sport that's changing, and you don't want to be playing catch up or having to do something that is more desperate. You want to really evaluate all of your options, which again, the best option ultimately might be to do nothing and to stay at 14 and position yourself for your next media rights agreement, at least the Tier 1 rights, which are coming up ahead of everybody else. And so, the Big Ten's not, I don't think, in a position of desperation, but I think the responsibility that Kevin Warren has, the commissioner, as well as all the other key stakeholders in the league, is to have these discussions now and figure out what's a way to keep moving things forward. Because one thing Kevin said to me, I did a piece on him recently, is that he's always trying to think 3, 5, 7 years down the line. Whether you like what the SEC did or didn't like it, I think it's definitely a forward-thinking move. It's looking at what the sport is going to look like in a few years' time. And so if you're the Big Ten, you have to respond to at least that in terms of having those discussions and doing those studies and talking to the consultants and whoever else can help you with information as to how this sport is going to change, because there's so much change at this particular time. So I think that's where the important work has to be done, and whether that's actually expanding or creating some type of alternative plan, or really just sticking to the current 14 and feeling confident that the Big Ten will be fine and positioned very well for whatever the future holds. That could be the answer. But I think to just sit and do nothing, I think there's a concern in the league, honestly, Graham, that the Big Ten is not leading from ahead anymore. And I think that's the important thing to address if you're Kevin Warren. That's why the next few weeks and months are going to be so important.
So people throw out all sorts of schools because they'd love to see that school in the Big Ten. And the ACC's grant of rights agreement, I think, makes it tricky. But, obviously Notre Dame is the one you hear. People talk about Kansas because they want basketball, although you got kind of a shit show athletic department there. I think Kansas and Iowa State are both top 100 AAU institutions that may fit in terms of school and graduate research and that. Or you go out west to there are a lot of things, if you did want to expand, you could do. But this is, I think people don't realize, this is always driven by football. So like Kansas, while that may look appealing, there's really no appeal there from a athletic standpoint unless you want the school in, correct?
Right, and I would say, yes, it is driven by football, but it's really driven by branding and reach and attractiveness, especially when it comes to the matchups that you can create. I mean, one thing that I did hear about Texas and Oklahoma is that they ultimately wanted to make their schedules, their home schedules, and certainly their television schedules more attractive going forward. And this move certainly does that, going to the ACC. I'm sorry, to the SEC, I should say. And so from the Big Ten standpoint, if the league does choose to expand or whatever it does, it has to have that in mind. Whatever I'm bringing in or whatever schools I'm bringing in, are they going to make the product that I pitch to ESPN or Fox or whatever outlet, especially for my next media rights agreement, is it going to be more attractive? And that's why I don't think Kansas or Iowa State does anything for you. It's nothing against those schools. And certainly Iowa State has increased its profile significantly in football. But if you look at Iowa State's ratings, they don't give you anything. And that's what it comes down to here. And so that's why I think Notre Dame, yes, Notre Dame would rate. Notre Dame against, you want as many Notre Dame Michigans and Notre Dame Michigan States and Notre Dame Ohio States and Notre Dame Penn States as possible, because those games matter for television. Same with the Pac-12 group that you mentioned. If you get Michigan, USC, Ohio State, Oregon, those types of games are going to matter more when you go to negotiate your next media rights agreement. So that's what I think the spirit of this has to be for the Big Ten when assessing whether it's an expansion candidate or some type of scheduling partnership.
Because just in terms of being competitive, like for both Texas and Oklahoma, this doesn't help you get to the playoff, whatever the format is. I mean, Oklahoma was in there anyway, and Texas probably had a clearer path because the SEC, even if you go to 12 and you're taking 6 conference champions, and I don't think this had anything to do with the playoff. And is that correct?
It really doesn't have to do with competition, and that's the hardest thing for fans to understand is why would Oklahoma, which has won 6 consecutive Big 12 titles and made the playoff 4 out of the 6 years that it's existed, make this move? It doesn't make sense. Maybe it's even 5 out of the 7. I don't have all the list in front of me. Why would they do this? Why would they enter a league where even with an expanded playoff, it's going to be harder for them to win double digits, which they've obviously been doing in the Big 12 every year? So that's why it's not about that. And it can't be about that for the Big Ten, whether you're, adding a team that is obviously going to bring in some football prestige, but isn't going to bring in those other qualities. That's why those other things are so important. It's what's driving this on both sides for the SEC and for the teams that are joining the SEC, because Texas hasn't even won very much in the Big 12. How do you expect to win in the SEC? Maybe they think they can because they're Texas, but they're not making the move for competition's sake. They're making the move because of money and because of what their revenue, how that'll increase, and then in their eyes, give them a better chance to improve on the field.
One of the things that people have asked me about is, there seems to be a fear that like Ohio State would leave the Big Ten. I don't think anybody leaves the Big Ten. I say that not knowing how much Nebraska hates the Big Ten, but financially, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I still think the Big Ten is likely always going to be one of the top 2 in terms of media rights agreements. So I'm wondering, there is no chance of somebody deciding they want it and the SEC further expanding, do you think?
Right. Well, a couple of things here. I'm glad you brought this up, because one thing I wasn't completely clear on, even though it was part of the Big Ten's last media rights agreement, even though those Tier 1, the Fox and ESPN agreements expire in 2023, the Big Ten schools have a grant of rights with the Big Ten Network that runs through the mid-2030s. And as the league official recently told me, the amount of money, we don't even know what it is because we haven't really considered the possibility that anyone would even leave, because it's obviously significant money. I think the only way that the Big Ten loses members is if, this second wave of this happens, which is not just the SEC adding Texas and Oklahoma, but essentially creating a new tier, a new super league, a conglomerate of teams that essentially are the top teams in college football, at least the top invested teams and the top rated teams. So if that group of, 30 or 32 or 40 or whatever the number is created, we both know that Michigan and Ohio State are going to be in that 40. Will some of the other Big Ten teams? I'm sure some will. We know not all will. And that's where it gets really tricky. So if it's essentially, 4 super conferences, as people like to say, whether they're at 14 members or 16 or maybe even 12, we know the I'd be stunned if Ohio State and Michigan are not in that Big Ten conference, super conference, versus leaving for whatever the other option is.
What happens to the Big 12's remaining folks? I mean, is this, if you had to guess where they're headed and how you salvage yourself as I saw the TV numbers. You I think quote tweeted Stuart Mandel's a bit on, like, just Texas and Oklahoma drive pretty much all the eyeballs in that league on a national level. And what do you do if you're anybody else? Yeah,
I think, well, you certainly, I think that was a very telling story And it just outlines the desperation for the Big 12 because that's what you're left with. And unless you're to add teams that change that, you're not changing that fact. And all the TV networks know that, or all the outlets know that when they're negotiating with you for whatever comes next. So I think if you're a member of the Big 12, you're trying to get to one of the other leagues, whether it's the ACC, SEC, Big 10, or Pac-12. And if not, I think the league has to be realistic about the fact that revenue-wise, it's going to be a lot closer to the AAC than any of the other power conferences, even the Pac-12. So, do you add strategically from the AAC and just maybe position yourself as a better version of the AAC? I mean, the Big 12 still has AQ status or autonomy status, and that's not going to change immediately. So do you try to build up as much strength as you can with adding? I don't think they can stay at 8. I think they have to add somebody and then try to help your product as much as possible for, again, an expanded playoff, which is still likely coming in some form or fashion. And hopefully you'll get as much money out of your next television agreement as possible. But the reality is, without Texas, without Oklahoma, even if you add, say Cincinnati, UCF, South Florida, Memphis, Houston, you're only incrementally increasing your valuation from a television standpoint. There's nobody out there that does what Oklahoma and Texas did for you for so many years.
BYU would be maybe my move if I were them. I don't know if that, there's some issues there on several fronts, but that's one that maybe pulls in some eyeballs. Adam, I appreciate you, man. I look forward to seeing you. Thanks for taking a few minutes.
You bet, Graham. Appreciate you, man.
It's Adam Rittenberg from ESPN, and you can find him obviously on Twitter and read his work, and likely you have. Before we talk about this, or just want to let you know, today it's Skymint. Skymint is celebrating you. It is Customer Appreciation Day, and they do this fairly often, and this is one of the reasons to go to skymint.com and sign up for their email newsletters. You'll know early. It's Customer Appreciation Day. 50% off any THC or CBD item when you purchase 2 or more THC and CBD products. You also, if that doesn't wind up being the better deal, you can get 20% off your order with the Couch and the Rube promo code CouchAndRube20. So go to any Skymint location, 3 in the greater Lansing area, they're throughout Michigan. There's one in Big Rapids now, Grand Rapids area, Ann Arbor, all over the place. Go to skymint.com for locations. Take advantage of Customer Appreciation Day today. This is Wednesday, depending on when you're listening to it. And if you're listening to this and it's Thursday, just use the Couch and the Rube promo code, CouchAndRube20. Let Skymint be your guide on your cannabis journey like they have for me and the Michael Jordan of weed over here, Jason Nick. Jason, anything you took from the conversation with Adam?
That he says appreciate you at the end of his phone call.
I do love that.
Did you steal it from Adam?
I did.
That you guys are friends? What happens to some of the teams that are left behind, though, in some of these leagues, Graham? Do they give up football as a university?
No.
So that's what I mean. Like, follow the money, but, man, what's going to happen to some of these schools?
Yeah, the finances are a little scary if you're Oklahoma State or, Kansas State, Kansas even.
Oklahoma State has money, though. They have booster support.
They do have booster support, but the money that comes in from this TV revenue is everything. It's the reason they played these sports last year in a pandemic, some places without really fans, right? TV revenue is so critical in what you're actually going to be able to get. You've got to try to find people who are attractive, markets who are attractive. If I were obviously you're going to have to, you've got 2 issues if you're running the Big 12 right now. One, while you're having discussions with your members about trying to make this work and adding pieces, every one of them would gladly go to another league if the league offered. So they're going to have those conversations. And, I don't know, like he brought up Kansas. Like I think it would be really interesting if the Big Ten had Kansas. You lose for Michigan State. You lose the Champions Classic. I don't know that you certainly don't need Kansas. But you certainly would never add Kansas unless you added a real Notre Dame and Kansas as a pair work. You can afford to do that if you're adding a huge football somewhere and you wanted that for whatever reason. And maybe in basketball that does carry some weight in terms of grant of rights and your media rights agreement. Sorry, and
Can I ask a dumb question?
Yeah.
Why would they have to give up the Champions Classic? Just because they're in the same division?
Yeah,
they still couldn't do.
You're not going to play each other, right? I mean, the reason Michigan State's in the Champions Classic is because they wanted a Big Ten school, and Michigan State's the best of the Big Ten schools. Otherwise, if they wanted, because at the time the Champions Classic started, they put Duke in it. If they were just going to take the best 4 programs, North Carolina would have been in there with them. So, I mean, Indiana being down as the blue blood, Michigan State was up. Michigan State had been up for a decade. They got the spot. So
I think I would still trade that.
Yeah, you're right. The Champions Classic may not run forever anyway, and so yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that's and from a fan perspective that's fun, but we think about things from a competitive standpoint, right? We think about things like Oklahoma and Texas did not improve their odds of getting to the national championship game or the playoff by doing this. That's not what they're worried about. They're worried about revenue, throughout the season. But if I'm the Big 12,
and isn't that scary? I mean, that must be a significant amount of money if you're going to leave knowing that you could win the Big 12 if you're Oklahoma for the rest of your time there, if you wanted to.
Well,
and to leave that to go to a SEC, a tougher conference, for, I guess, I don't know what the figure is, what the money figure is.
The problem Oklahoma has is once Texas goes, that's half the big draw. So it is interesting to me why. I mean, Oklahoma is not the draw that Texas is. Texas was to me here the big draw. Oklahoma's lucky that it's been so good lately, and you win yourself into another league. Oregon, for example, that Adam brought up is a team that would be attractive from the Pac-12. They're attractive because they've won for 20 years, but that's not a brand on its own that would. No, you can win yourself into being a little bit of a different brand, but you got to do it over time, and you got to be up when this sort of stuff happens. Yeah, if I were a Big 12, I would be looking at markets where you thought there were eyeballs to be had. Ohio, Florida, maybe out west if you can get who know. I don't think anybody's leaving the Pac-12. But BYU, I think, would be eyeballs. Does Boise do it? I don't think so. Those sort of things. I was glad he addressed the idea that somebody's leaving the Big Ten, and unless all these leagues are blown up and there's this sort of super league thing, it's just not happening. It's just not going to happen.
But do you think, like Adam said, the Big Ten media rights agreement expires in 2023? Do you think Kevin Warren would panic and make some decisions before then to try to get
I think it'll be in Barry. Alvarez is a big part of this discussions now, and there will be discussions with presidents and AD. Like, he will not be doing this on his own, and these discussions, I'm sure, are happening. Is there anybody that they want to add right now? Like, who would the team, the eyeballs? You go west. You add USC, and I'm not sure USC would leave the Pac-12, but the Pac-12 is, and that would cripple the Pac-12. But you add a USC again. Geographical footprints don't matter as much anymore. Rutgers is in the freaking Big Ten. But there are discussions, I guarantee you, what teams would make sense. And keep in mind, everybody loves the idea of North Carolina. But North Carolina, what do they do on a football standpoint? Nothing. Virginia, maybe. I mean, but if this is about football and eyeballs and negotiating a media rights deal, a Tier 1 deal, not the Big Ten Network, which extends for quite some time, then I think there's a real limited group, and it all starts at Notre Dame. I'm sure that overture is being made. They're in the Big Ten in hockey. That sort of relationship has been made there. Is there any way this would make sense? And what would get really interesting is the Texas, even though they were in the Big 12, had a better deal with the Longhorn Network than everybody else. Would a team like Notre Dame be able to keep its NBC deal and also profit from the money? Would Ohio State and Michigan be cool with Notre Dame making more money than them? I don't think so. But again, those are discussions that are all being had right now. Interesting stuff going on, and what's funny is I actually enjoy this stuff. I like the Big Ten the way it is. I don't want things to get too screwy. I like college football the way it is, but I enjoy these conversations so much more than the name, image, and likeness conversation. So much more than the transfer portal stuff. Like, this stuff's really fascinating because it's sort of, it's just sort of make believe trade. It's almost like basketball trades. By the way, the next time we do a show, Cade Cunningham probably a Piston.
I don't know. It's up in the air. Troy Weaver said, nothing's final yet.
James Edwards has been pissing me off, by the way, with all his. I'm going to talk to James. We'll do.
And speaking of, Jay Billis said Cade Cunningham is the most complete player he's seen come out of college in his. He didn't say lifetime, but in a while. Is Is he true? Is he just saying that?
I didn't see that, but if Jay says it, then it must be gospel.
Must be true.
Jay and I have many differences of opinion, but he is not an idiot when it comes to basketball. So, all right, let's take another quick break.
Yep.
And when we come back, we'll have Harry Gagnon and go through the best bets for this week. Couch in the Roof, presented by SkyMint Premium Cannabis and Front 43 in Cask & Company.
Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. If you're looking for a relaxed vibe, great food, and an outstanding beer selection, Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing is your place. Enjoy their famed chicken and waffle fries, fish and chips, or any of their delicious burgers or salads. Midtown Brewing Company also offers 40-plus beers on tap, including ciders and seasonal offerings and daily happy hour specials. The spacious and cozy vibe makes Midtown Brewing Company a perfect place for a beer with a friend, a work lunch, or to watch the games on its big screen TVs. If you'd rather eat at home, Midtown Brewing Company offers a terrific carryout menu and free delivery on orders of $20 or more. Visit MidtownBrewingCompany.net or stop by 402 South Washington in downtown Lansing for the Midtown Brewing Company experience.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by SkyMint Premium Cannabis, and our Wednesday show brought to you by Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. Go to caskandcompany.com to look at their exquisite menu, outstanding beer selection, just great place to watch a game. Very pleased now to have our good friend Harry Gagnon on. And Harry, there is a list of things you like today that this is pretty long. Like, this is degenerate. You put some time in, my man. Like, this is incredible. And it's very eclectic. This is a fun betting day. Like, I'm excited to, like, just go home, bet all of this, and see how it pans out.
Look, hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, and you know what? It's the Olympics. All this is available. As soon as I'm done with the show with you guys today, I'm on my way to Vegas to hang out with Cousin Sal for his 50th, and the other two members of the Degenerate Trifecta. You can always catch us on Against All Odds Extra Point Podcast Network. I got a long list of stuff that I'm going to be a little extra degenerate this weekend, absolutely, with a lot of stuff going on. Listen, as you guys know too, throw in. I've got many bets on the NBA draft coming up on Thursday as well.
Just don't bet on the Tigers, and don't do a video saying the Tigers are going to win.
Oh,
you're the reason the streak is over, Harry.
I know, but guys, I'm sorry. I thought I'd throw you guys a bone, and I kind of liked it. The matchup was good. Peralta was on the hill too, right?
Yeah, and he was due to blow up. And as you mentioned, you can listen.
Graham
to Harry.
says that after the fact.
You can listen to Harry on the Against All Odds podcast, and also at bestbetcorner.com and extrapoints.com, and his daily videos, and his pick from his daily video is among the games we're going to go over today.
Listen, guys, I'll make sure that I don't take the Lions anytime this upcoming year. How's that?
No, you can do that.
I think that's a safe
This year
play.
doesn't matter.
I think that's a safe play. But you're into the draft a little bit, and let's just start there. You kind of like Franz Wagner under the pick 9.5 at -180, and Davion Mitchell -150 at over 10.5. Is that right?
Yeah, Wagner's an excellent. He can shoot the ball. He can shoot the three. Great free throw shooter. Get you rebounds. Can pass. He can do it all. He can play He plays great defense too. It's got great size. So I think under 9.5 is the situation for him. Is the play there? You got to lay a bit of a price, but I think he's going to go there. Like again, if you need him to score, he can. And David Mitchell, I like over 10.5 at -150 out of Baylor. All around play. Like he'll do anything for you, and I love that. And he really picked it up in the NCAA tournament. in that run for Baylor to the championship. But overall, in terms of shooting, I don't think he's that great. But he's going to be a valuable commodity on whatever team picks him. But I think not till after the 10th round or 10th pick.
That's interesting because Mitchell, at some early on, you'd see him everywhere from like 6 to in the teens. So I think that's I love the Wagner play, especially. And I got to see what the odds are on Cade. On my book, they don't even have the draft odds up yet. It's weird, but my book's a little off the book, so to speak. So I'll have to see.
What does that mean? Is that like is your sports book in international waters, so you can get away with like
it's just
betting on deaths?
It's non-taxable income, is what I would say.
Oh yeah,
that
keep it away from the misses.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Hey, who are we looking for? I'll look real quick for you.
Just what are the odds? Cade goes 1. What are the odds there?
Of who?
Cade Cunningham going number 1.
Minus 75,000.
Like 6,000, 7,000.
See, it's almost worth taking somebody else and saying something goes. Actually, that's not true because the Pistons could trade the pick, but they're probably not going to not take him.
It's interesting that the Jalen Green is really getting a lot of love lately too. Looks like he's going to be the number 2 pick on against all odds. I really thought Jalen Suggs out of Gonzaga would be the number 2 pick, but really looking like Jalen Green now. Interesting.
Yeah, it seems like it's a 3-guy draft. Mobley is the other guy that I think like Troy Weaver, the Pistons really likes, and Suggs has not been mentioned really about any of that. Okay, so let's go USA basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Soups, 21.5 and the over, minus 21.5 and the over 183 in the next game against the Czech Republic. This is I do like this. They're coming off a loss, and now you're playing a team where you're an overwhelming favorite. It's a get well game. Like even though they're not a real functional team, there can be certain teams where they still overwhelm their opponent.
Yeah, look, the Czechs just lost by 20 to France, and there was 174 points scored in that. I don't think a lot of defense here in the USA after they just bombed, excuse the pun, I guess, bombed Iran.
Oh, yeah, Iran, yeah.
And
not
now
a good
analogy. Yeah.
Probably not a good word.
I really didn't mean it. Anyway, the USA minus 21.5. I mean, I think they came into their own a little bit here finally. I'd like to see a little more production out of Durant, but Lillard had 21 points and 5 assists. Booker looked good with 16 points. And I think it's going to be the same type of scoring game here. They're going to probably hit over 100. When the Czechs can probably, the United States are only going to get hurt to allow the Czechs to get some easy baskets too. I think this game flies over the 183, especially when the USA establishes themselves as a 20-point lead, and just easy baskets both sides.
All right, let's go to Major League Baseball here, and Toronto Boston over 8. You like that? And Toronto over 4.5 runs and pretty good juice at minus 105 there for that. You like this one?
Yeah, both. But they got rained out last night. That was my video pick last night on Against All Odds, and Extra Points Podcast Network. So I did like that over. Shoot, if I liked it last night at over 10.5, I gotta like the same matchup at over 8. I know they're playing during the day, but I think Robbie Ray's going to give up a couple home runs, going to give a couple long balls to Boston, who's a great hitting team. Blue Jays are a great hitting team, too, and Boston starter Garrett Edwards, 18 earned runs, guys, in the last 23 innings pitched. But, yeah, I think the Blue Jays get 5 runs here, and I think the game goes over 8, and we can cash both as a early game today.
And I really like your video play, White Sox, Angels. These are both night games on a Wednesday night, so you got some time to get them in. I think it's at 8 o'clock for the Sox, maybe even later for the Angels. White Sox is a heavy favorite at minus 178. Angels at minus 220 as a parlay.
Yeah, parlay here. I mean, look, the White Sox have won, I believe, 11 of 12, the last 12 games in Kansas City. They came from behind last night, and Giolito's pitching tonight. He's a minus 178 favorite. Kansas City starter Bubic is his ERA is like around 5, and the Angels at minus 220. Colorado still, even though they won last night in Anaheim, still have the worst road record in Major League Baseball, and they're throwing Chichi Gonzalez at the Angels tonight. His ERA is around 6, so give me White Sox minus 178 and the Angels minus 220 on a 2-team parlay for a little action for tonight.
back to the Olympics. You like golf Olympics, and this is something I pay almost no attention to, but unless you have money on it. And you like Reed over Answer in a matchup minus 140.
I do. I just like, look, minus 140. Not a lot of people are big fans of Patrick Reed, but when it comes to here now, the Olympics and the Ryder Cup and whatever you want to call whatever extra tournaments he's in, you find yourself rooting for the guy because he gets pumped up, and I think he's going to be pumped up for this. He's one of only, I believe, 4 Americans that are over there, and I really like this matchup against Answer, who hasn't really played well last year. This year, not finding a lot of top 10 finishes, not a lot of top 20. So give me Reed at minus 140 over Answer for the tournament for the Olympics.
And a couple long shot top 20s. You like Belgium's Tom Dietrich at plus 175 and Colombia's Munoz at plus 190. I don't even know who Munoz is, I'll be honest with you. I've never heard of the guy.
He's got a win on tour before. He's a regular on the PGA Tour. He's up there, and that's really a lot of times the Belgian is playing in the European Tour. But I think something like this with the Olympics here, some of these guys may want to take a little shot at top 20s to really playing for their country. So I'm going to take a shot with Detry and Munoz. Like I said, Detry, you said Ram plus 175, Munoz plus 190 to finish in the top 20. And how about this? The women's. I'm going to give you Lexi Thompson at 18-1 from the United States. Redemption after blowing the U.S. Women's Open in June after shooting a 75 in the final round. Lexi Thompson at 18-1 for the women's Olympic gold. How about that?
That is beautiful. I'm gonna literally bet all of this and see where I stand.
Guys. I'm telling you, I'm on this one. I'm on it. Let's do it.
Jason, is there anything you really like tonight?
Well, I'm surprised that Harry actually went against his boy Robbie Ray in that 7. It's only going to be 7 innings. You think it's going to be over? I don't know if I agree with Harry on that one. The White Sox Angels, now they're both big, heavy, favorites, but it ends up being plus side money, right?
Sure, yeah, a little bit. Yep.
So I kind of like Harry's 2-game parlay there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that the video pick parlay, White Sox and Angels. It lines up like plus 121 or something around that range. Harry, we are getting close to football, and I'm excited about that. We're going to get back to doing the thing where Jason and I pick a parlay and you evaluate it. We just like the problem is there's so many afternoon games today, and our audience is. I don't know. It doesn't really work as well when it's mostly baseball out there.
Right.
Although, as you proved today, there are like 60 other things to bet right now.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoy Vegas. I hope you're still alive next week, and we look forward to talking to you.
Thanks, Harry.
Guys, you're the best. Thanks.
Terry Gagnon from the Against All Odds podcast with Cousin Sal and BestBetCorner.com and ExtraPoints.com. Yeah,
there are games at 7 o'clock. There's a slate at 7 if you want to get into them.
Yeah, you really have to dig in. There is just again a lot of things are over. I
don't even know where to find some of these Olympic events he was talking about.
No,
on TV.
I'm gonna have to go after. Oh yeah. The way the whole Olympics is being broadcast sucks. Like some stuff's on Peacock, some stuff,
so I have to get the app.
Yeah, but you don't even realize like the way you watch is you go to like your app would be cable or whatever, and or Hulu or whatever it is, YouTube, and it shows you what the sports are on. But like, you don't see the event that's on Peacock. You got to go see what's there. It's not well done. And then again, they only show you Americans, and they only show you some events, and it's just NBC sucks this.
And speaking of poorly done, why is Matt Shepard and Jack Morris? Why are they not going on road games or Kirk Gibson or anyone? Why are they still in studio?
What do you mean?
Due to COVID reasons?
They're not on road games?
No,
I thought they were.
If you watched the game last night, Shepard, whose home run was it? Was it Haas or?
I thought
was
they
it
were
2 nights
games.
ago? Badu's home run. He was like 5 minutes late on it, and I think they're in the Bally Studios when they're on the road.
I swear they
or
were.
He's doing a Sudoku puzzle. I don't know which one, but it's interesting.
I didn't know that.
They were not going on the road as far as I knew. They were only doing home games.
And
I don't know if that's a cost-cutting move or it's. I mean, I can kind of understand that to send a whole crew to these games.
It's not. Well, you're still sending the crew. I mean, it's not that much. Travel is not that much. It drives me nuts in media organizations too when people first cut travel. Like to cover Michigan State.
Your travel.
My travel for
5-star.
My travel for a whole year costs like 1/4 of an employee. You know what I mean? Like you want to save money, cut an employee. Don't cut my travel. That sounded bad. Bomb Iran. Is that what Harry says?
Yeah. Oh man, they're gonna bomb Iraq and Iran tonight.
Yeah.
Gotta love Harry.
Yeah, no, absolutely love Harry.
So Graham wants people fired so he can travel, is what we're saying.
So
to end the show.
We're looking forward to Friday's show after tomorrow's NBA draft with Cade Cunningham. We'll put out the call for Twitter questions right after the first few picks in the draft. I don't know what. Maybe I'll see if James is available. We'll see if we want to go guest or we want to hold that for next week, and sort of get into what transpires with the Pistons tomorrow night. But that should be fun. I'm looking forward to that. And
I think Wagner goes past 10. I don't know
Think
why
he goes
that's
higher?
Yeah, I don't know why it's a heavy favorite for him to go
I
than
need to
10.
read more on those before I take those specific picks. I'll be honest with you. The one I'm really on tonight for Harry is his White Sox Angels. White Sox Angels parlay. That's the money play tonight. We appreciate all of you listening. Thanks to Adam Rittenberg from ESPN for joining us. Thanks to Skyman, as always. Today, Customer Appreciation Day, or use the promo code CouchAndRube20. And thanks to Front 40